Welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. I just need to let everybody know the stream is going on and so that they can join up on Facebook and Twitter. So just a minute to let everybody know that the stream is going on, and then I'll be able to get started. Okay, tonight's live stream is going to ask the critical question: why are American marriages at an all-time low? Now, a recent report from the Centers of Disease Control that was featured on the Today website states that marriage rates in America are at an all-time low. And they'll leave a link to that article right there so everybody can see that it comes from a government source. So we are in a state where marriages in America are at an all-time low. So in the history of recorded marriages, which goes all the way back to the late 1800s, they are now stating that marriage is now at an all-time low. And I believe the reason why marriage is at an all-time low is because men just don't see any value to marriage anymore. When most men take a critical examination of marriage, they don't see anything in it that benefits them at all. Now, marriage, when it was originally created by God, was to bring a man and a woman together under his authority and to be stewards under his order. So when God created marriage, he made it so that the man could be his steward, the man could be his head, the man could be his leader and his authority figure, and the man could be the one who not only controls his household, but also make sure that his family is following God's natural order. So there is a set of standards that God had for marriage. Unfortunately, in America and the West, as gynocentrism and feminism became the institutions that people began to follow, we started to see more and more people starting to walk away from the institution of marriage. So most men these days, when they look at marriage from a worldly perspective, they really don't see any benefits for getting married as related to the legal definitions under the American system, because that legal system punishes them for going out here and being part of a marriage. Now, most men before the days of feminism, they wanted to get married. And the reason why they wanted to get married was first because they wanted to be the heads of household. They wanted to be leaders and authority figures over their home. And they wanted to go out here and build wealth, because one of the things that men did with marriage was they used marriages to build a business, and that business was the business of building a family. And in order for that business to work, you have to have both partners agreeing to work together. And that was one of the reasons why people wanted to get married, was they knew that they would have a partner that would want to go out here and work with them towards building wealth that the family could be able to have to pass on to the children, because that's the other reason why people got married, was they wanted to go out here, and they not only wanted to have an economic base where they build wealth, but they also wanted to have heirs so that they could go out here and pass that wealth on to them. So, what most men wanted to marry women for primarily was someone to be a helpmeet and a support in helping them build up their businesses or build up their careers or be able to help them build things that will allow them to have fixed economic tangible assets and have those assets available so that when they got older, they had something to take care of themselves in their old age and then have something that could be passed on to the next generation. So, marriage was a very, very strong business transaction between men and women. And the main reason, again, was to go out here and build that wealth that could be passed on from one generation to the next. And that was what many men considered to be their legacy. And they considered it very important to start building towards their legacies at an early age, because they knew back in the early 20th century that most mortality rates were very, very low. So most men knew that they would probably pass on by about 50 or 60. So they wanted to make sure that they had something fixed and tangible to not only take care of their wives, but to be able to take care of their children as well. And these days, we're not seeing men getting married anymore, because when it comes down to men, men are having having a much harder time going out here and being able to go out here and build. So a lot of younger men these days, they have no real reason to get married, because a lot of them just can't get started early on in their lives. So because a lot of younger guys out here who are in their 20s and their early 30s, they have not found that first job that they have wanted. So because they have not found the job that can allow them to start laying that financial foundation, a lot of those guys, they're just having a real hard time getting anything started as related to building. And that also relates to what goes on with the man crisis going on here in America, because a lot of the men, they can't get started because we have so many women in the workplace, and a lot of them in the HR positions are playing the gatekeeper role, and they're keeping men from coming into the workforce. And because those men can't come into the workforce, they cannot start building their savings and start building their foundation in order to go out here and start their lives. So we have a lot of men out here, they just cannot really go out here and start building because they just can't get those building blocks started at an early age the way their fathers and grandfathers could, because their fathers and grandfathers, they could go out here with no education at all and get a job somewhere and start working towards building towards their savings, or building towards developing skills in a trade, or building towards something that will allow them to have economic assets. So those men can't get started these days, even with college degrees, because oftentimes in our gynocentric society, we want to go out here and elevate and empower women, but we don't understand that the foundations for building wealth come from men. And they come from men because the man is the one who usually is the one who goes out here and proposes marriage. And he proposes marriage, again, because he wants to go out here and he wants to start building. That's the main reason why men actually want to go out here and get married. But there's no reason for men to get married, because these days what happens is most men now see that if they even think to get involved with a woman, what will happen is she will not be a partner who will work with him. She will become a partner who will work against him. And that's one of the big problems that discourages so many men from going out here to get married, because they know they're not going to be able to find a woman who will be a helpmeet or a support, who will go out here and work towards helping that man build something of substance, or work towards helping him build any sort of wealth. So most of the men out here, they are hindered at the start with the job market first, and they're also hindered by a lot of women out here who have bought into feminist narratives, who have taught them that they don't need a man, they can do everything on their own, and they don't need a man in order to work towards building wealth. So they don't want to work with the man, and because they don't want to work with the man, then the man just doesn't have anybody who can be a suitable partner for marriage. And that's one of the other big problems with marriage, why men aren't getting married today, is that they just can't find a woman with that mindset towards working towards becoming a helpmeet and a support towards helping him build a household, helping him build a family, and helping him build something that will be all theirs. Instead, she is looking to get her own and looking to have her own. Thank you, Ajiti 2007. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. But she's working towards getting her own and not working towards helping him. Talking about about her working on her own, she's oftentimes not looking to be a partner in the relationship. A lot of times when you have a lot of women these days, they don't see themselves as a partner in the relationship towards building anything. A lot of times they're just thinking of it as something temporary. So you have a lot of women out here, they are thinking of relationships as just something that they're going to do in the meantime. And they're thinking about getting to the next man and not thinking about building with the man that they're with. So a lot of women, they aren't really thinking about getting a relationship and having a commitment to a man. They're just thinking about, I'm going to go out here, have my fun with these different guys, and eventually I'll settle down when I get into my 30s or my 40s. And that's not really the way a God-centered woman would really think, but that's the way a lot of modern women think. That's another reason why men really aren't going out here and proposing to women, because a lot of times they're not finding any women who are really interested in focusing on developing a relationship and working towards marriage. Most women these days, they have, again, bought into these feminist narratives. And because they have bought into these feminist narratives, they are thinking that they are independent. They think that they have everything because there is a job that they have, that the government is there taking care of them. And they're thinking that because there is somebody else there, they don't have to go out here and work with this man because they are already working with this boss at this job. They also have the government to fall back on. So they believe because they have these support systems that are taking care of them, they don't have to go out here and share and contribute to a relationship or make any commitment in a relationship. So many of the women out here, they have no real incentive to be part of a marriage or commit to a marriage. Thank you, Monument Entertainment Films, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. They don't want to commit to that marriage because they know that there's always somebody there. There's always going to be somebody else there. And because their eyes are primarily focused on other people to take care of them, they don't have to depend on that man to meet their economic needs or their emotional needs. And that's another big problem with marriage, why men aren't getting married. They just can't find a woman who wants to be that helpmeet and support, or that woman who just wants to be able to be a part of a relationship for the right reasons, because the reasons for getting into a relationship are about building that love and that trust. But most women these days, because they've bought into feminist rhetoric, they believe that marriage is supposed to be about getting the resources from a man so that they can live a Madison Avenue and Hollywood lifestyle, sort of like Carrie Bradshaw and Mr. Big on Sex and the City. They're not thinking about what they can bring to the relationship to help the man build a household. They're thinking about what they can take from the man to go out here and live a lavish lifestyle. And what man would want to sit there and just be somebody who just gets everything taken from him in a relationship, and have a partner who is not thinking about sharing with them in a relationship? I mean, what man would want to deal with that? And that's one of the reasons I believe so many men just don't want to get married, because they just don't see where they're getting anything out of the whole deal. And when they look at the deal of marriage today, according to the Western legal system, they see a system that is out to take them for everything, and they see a gynocentric system that gives everything to the woman, but does not give the man anything in the relationship. So most men out here, when they look at the marriage system according to the laws of the West, they don't really see anything in it for them. There's no way for them to be the head of their household, because the government comes in and it puts laws on the man that prevents him from being able to assert authority in his household. The law prevents the man from going in here and being able to discipline and supervise his children. And the law prevents the man from being able to set order inside of his home, because all it takes for a woman these days is to make one call to 911, and that man can be taken out of his home and locked up and practically lose his job and his freedom. So most men are looking at marriage and saying, it's just not worth it for me to get involved with this woman if she's going to have all of this power in the relationship, and I cannot be a head of household, I cannot be a leader in that household, and I cannot be an authority figure in that home. I cannot discipline my children. I cannot be able to supervise my wife. I cannot be able to have a woman who follows my lead and a woman who wants to work with me. It's just not worth it to go out here and marry a woman, because this system makes it where the man has no say whatsoever in the home, but he's supposed to be the one in charge of the home. But it looks like the way the courts have it, the man has no say over that home. Moreover, that same man, when he's trying to go out here and build that home where he's trying to build that family, he has no incentive to continue working towards building that family, because according to these laws like no-fault divorce, all a woman has to do is file a divorce, and that man can possibly lose everything that he worked towards building, like everything he has worked for, all the wealth he has worked towards building, so that the whole family can benefit. She can decide that she's not happy, and because she's not happy, she can decide to cash that man out and take all of his economic assets in a divorce, and then also be able to go out here and get alimony and get child support on top of that, and leave that man penniless. And that can just happen out of nowhere. So most men are looking at it and going, why would I want to get married according to this system, when all she has to do is say she's not happy, and everything that he spent years working to build, like a home, building up the savings, building up a set of resources, and even building up things for the children to inherit. She can practically take all of that away, all based on her feelings and not based on anything else. So that's another thing that de-incentivizes men to go out here and think about getting married, is the fact that they could spend anywhere from 5 to 20 years or even 25 years in a household with a woman, living with her, having their children there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this woman can decide she's not happy. And because she wants her life to change, she can take everything that that man owns and then just leave that man practically broke. And he has to continue paying to maintain her lifestyle. And he's barely struggling to get by, but he has to take care of her lifestyle. And she's the one talking about how she wants things to change. And that's one of the things that makes no real logical sense to me about these divorce laws, is many of these women will sit there and talk about how they want to change their lives, but they want the man to continue paying for their lifestyle. Well, if you want to change your life and go out here and have the big fun, then you need to go out here and make your own money and get used to the lifestyle change of not having that man's money. So that's one of the things I found to be, a big problem with a lot of these divorced women. And that's one of the things that's, again, has discouraged so many men from not wanting to get married these days. It's because they just don't see anything in it for them. They don't see anything as related to being that responsible steward, because most men, who want to get married, they want to be a man to be under God. They want to be a responsible steward. They want to be able to have their household in order. They want to be able to have their wife working with them, and they want to be able to get their children under subjection so that they are all following his lead and that they're all following God. But that's very hard to do in today's Western system, because in today's Western system, the woman is not taught to work with the man. Instead, the woman is taught to compete with the man. And because the woman is taught to compete with the man, she is always looking for a better deal. And when your woman is looking for a better deal, then how is she going to help you build your household? How is she going to help you build wealth? How is she going to help you raise the children to become responsible stewards like their father? And how is she going to be able to help raise that family to be a functional unit? If your woman is competing against you, how is she working for you? And that's one of the critical questions many men out here ask when they think about getting married these days. How can I work with a woman who has been socialized to compete against me? Thank you, GP100, for the donation. I really appreciate it. But you cannot really have a household that works like that, because instead of the woman serving God by serving you, she is serving another master. And when you have a woman serving two masters, she will love one and hate the other. And it's clear to me that most Western women, they hate their husbands and they hate God, and they serve this false God, and they serve his mammon, which are these corporate jobs and these government institutions. So she's not out here looking to serve her husband and help her husband build his house. No, she's looking to go out here and work in corporate America towards making that big money and getting with these millionaires and billionaires and getting the big payday. So she's not looking to serve the living God by serving the man. She is looking to serve mammon, and she's looking to get paid at the man's expense. So she really just wants to go out here, and she's been taught, I'm gonna go get this money, and she's looking to grab a bag from that, from wherever she can get it from. and she's not looking to be a partner in a relationship, and she's not looking to work with that man. No, most cases they're looking to be this mercenary, and because they're looking to be this mercenary, they again are serving mammon, and they're looking to get as much mammon as they want, and that's the reason why the marriages oftentimes fail. And this is why 80% of women file for divorce, is because they are looking to get this mammon, and they're looking to get paid. They're not looking to be a partner. They're looking to be a competitor. And a man does not need another competitor to deal with. I mean, he's already got enough competitors out here as it is. I mean, when he goes out here on the job, he's dealing with all of these different competitors. He's got bosses, he's got co-workers. Everybody is he's working to go out here and compete against. And what's really sad now is over the last 50 years, most men do not have a home they can go to that can be their sanctuary, because they have to go home and compete with their wives. And because they have to go home and compete with their wives, it makes it really difficult for most men out here to even, it's just really difficult out here for those who are married. And the younger guys, they want to get married, but the whole thing is, it's hard to do that when your enemy is in your house. I mean, that's one of the things that is also, I believe, discouraged a lot of guys out here, is they see that when they go out here, they have to go out, they not only have to go out here and deal with people on the job, but they also have to go out here and deal with people who want to compete with a wife or a girlfriend who wants to compete with them and wants to go out here and in some cases be better than he is. And it's hard, and a man cannot really deal with that because he's supposed to be the head and he's supposed to be the leader, but it's hard to do that when you have a woman looking to challenge you at every turn and looking to challenge your decisions and challenge your authority. It's hard to be a leader in a Western society. So that's another reason why I believe so many men are just deciding not to get married, because they just cannot get control over the home. They cannot get any sort of leadership in their home. And they cannot, and because they cannot be the leader and steward that God wants them to be, what happens is they just decide it's just not worth it, because if they marry this woman according to the Western system, what's going to happen is he is not only going to lose, but he's also going to be punished for just wanting to be the head of household, the steward of the household, and wanting to do his godly duties as a husband. So a man wants to do these things, but he's undermined by a gynocentric legal system, which gives women passes for all sorts of irresponsible, reckless, and egregious behaviors, which lead to the undermining of the household and the home, because the woman wants to get power over the home, and she gets rewarded for that by our government with a lot of these laws and the way that they are interpreted. And a lot of it also has to do with the way these laws are enforced on men. So a lot of men look at it and go, that why should I get married if all it's going to do is lead to me having this adversary in my home, this person looking to undermine my home, this person looking to tear down everything that I have tried to build, and this person who wants to question and second guess all of my decisions. So most men they look at marriage and they say, why would I want to go out here and get married? Because there's no real benefits long term for going out here and building anything, because the minute he tries to go out here and build anything, what happens is the woman uses the government and the legal system to tear everything that man builds down, because in most cases, she's always looking at the grass on the other side of the street. And because she's looking at the grass on the other side of the street, and she's looking to compete with the man, she's always thinking that she can always get better. And her quest to always get better always leads to her looking to tear down everything that the man is building so that she can chase this better that she thinks is on the other side of the street. But what most women don't understand is that better is just a construct created by Madison Avenue and Hollywood, designed to feed into their hypergamy and make them think that there's something better on the other side of the street. But there isn't anything better on the other side of the street. What's on the other side of the street is actually nothing but misery. But you can't tell most women because they are so caught up in looking for that better, they cannot see that God has already blessed them with something that is already good right in front of them. So most of the women out there, they're looking for this better. They're looking for this Mr. Big on Sex and the City, or this wealthy guy who's going to come in and sweep them off their feet after their marriage to this other guy. And they never get that better. All they do is wind up monkey branching from man to man, and they wind up becoming more and more miserable because what they don't understand is with all of the different men that they get involved with, they start losing their ability to pair bond, and they wind up becoming more and more miserable because they wind up becoming more and more spiritually unfulfilled, because the whole thing is that with marriage, a man and a woman, the two are supposed to become one. And usually when the man and the woman become one, they become under God, they usually wind up becoming spiritually content. But when you have a woman who goes out here and has already, some of them in some cases have had multiple sexual partners over the last couple of years, they're already having mental and spiritual issues from bonding with different spirits and different men. And then they get involved with more men, and that leads to them becoming more and more spiritually unfulfilled. And they just keep chasing this so-called success that Madison Avenue and Hollywood tell them is out there. But there's the only thing that's out there is just that mammon, and usually they wind up not happy with that mammon. I'm going to answer a question Luciano asks. Why was the Black community the first to give up marriage? Well, the Black community wasn't the first to give up marriage. The whole thing is that Black women bought into feminism, and feminism told them that they could be happier if they go out here and be these independent women. Because a lot of the Black women, they wanted to be like white women, and they thought that if they could be like the feminists, they could be like white women. So they wanted to give up their marriages because they wanted to aspire to be like those white women, not understanding that many of those white feminists were actually the type of dysfunctional women who were primarily came from single mother households and came from mentally ill environments where they were mentally ill or they were molested or abused. A lot of people don't know that a lot of the dysfunction you see with the feminists, that primarily came, the reason why you see it in the Black community is because it came from the feminists, white feminists themselves. The white feminists, a lot of them, like Gloria Steinem, came from single mother households. Valerie Solanas was mentally ill, and many of the others, they were a part of the alphabet family. So all of those things were a part of the feminist movement. And because Black women thought that those were, because they were white women, they wanted to be like those white women. They didn't understand that those white women were extremely dysfunctional, and they wanted to be a part of that, not understanding that what they had and what God had given them was already better. I mean, God had given them functional families, functional households, and had given them things, but they coveted what these white women had, not understanding what those white women had wasn't anything of value. It was basically poison. And a lot of the women who were part of the feminist movement in the 70s, they sold that poison to other women who talked about wanting to be this independent woman with this big job and this big career. And a lot of those women these days are now finding out that's all they have. And the whole thing is because they don't know how to build wealth, a lot of those same women who have those big jobs, they also have a lot of debt. as well. I discussed this in depth in why 70% of black women are single. Discuss it in depth in this ebook. Then you can pick it up. I left a link to it on Amazon, and that's one of the things that led to this paradigm of failure that usually most women try to follow, and they keep trying to make it work, not understanding it's never going to work because you can never really find any peace by being this so-called independent woman, because God did not mean for the woman to be independent, nor did he mean for the man to be independent. He meant for both the man and the woman to work together, and he meant for the man and the woman to come together in order to build a family. And the reason why the man wants to go out here and again build that wealth is because he wants to have something that he wants to share with his family. So that's the main reason why many men go out here and want to work and want to go out here and do something. Is because they want to build something so that it will have value to their families. And the only way they can, again, they want to go out here and build that family is so that they can have something as related to doing their work on earth. Because I'm getting a little confused here, but men want to go out here and they want to get married. They want to go out here and they want families. And again, the reason why they go out here and work so hard and work to build is because the most important thing to a man is his family. But in today's Western society, we have been taught that money is everything, but money really isn't everything. I mean, the things that are important to a man are his family and doing the work that God wants him to do on this earth. But it's hard for him to do that work on earth and work towards building that family in today's society, because in some cases he just can't get started because you have women at the gate that keep him from getting into the workplace to start working on laying those building blocks. And then you have women who want to be his enemy and want to get him out of the job market and don't want him building. They don't want him there. So he's dealing with a lot of resistance at the start. And when he starts to see this resistance at the start, then it becomes harder for him to start thinking about long-term goals like going out here and getting married, because how can he think about getting married when at the front gate, when he's about 18, 19, 20, 21, he's just getting out of college or getting out of high school, he can't get his first job because you have female gatekeepers in HR trying to keep him out of the job market, and he can't start working on building that savings towards working towards building that platform to start building things and moving things forward. Because once a man starts a job, he then starts working on those building blocks, like looking for his first apartment, looking to get his first car, and even start saving up to go out here and buy his first home. So guys, they're out here, they want to go start, but they can't start because you have women in the workplace putting up that brick wall, what I call the HR brick wall, and that keeps the men from being able to get started towards working towards a longer term goal, which is usually about 5-10 years down the road. The man talking about looking for a woman to go out here and get married, because if he can't start building his economic base early on, then how can he work towards going out here and proposing for a marriage? That's another critical question, most women have not really answered, because they're just thinking about competing against the man, taking away, keeping opportunities away from him. They're not thinking about how they're cutting themselves off as related to opportunities for marriage, because in order for there to be men to be marriage material, those men have to have a start somewhere. And this is something that most women really don't understand. They're just thinking, I'm going to get this job and I'm going to make all this money, not understanding that in order for that man to be able to get that apartment, get that car, and get that career going, he needs to get a start somewhere. And the more that you keep him out, the more you keep marriage-minded men out of the marketplace, and you wind up working against yourself. Thank you, Yak Diesel, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. He says the pandemic should have muted the gynocentric narrative, but when you look at current upcoming media, it's being doubled down on. Gynocentrism and feminism, like an alcoholic, yeah, they do need to hit a rock bottom, and that statistic pretty much showed us how low things have gotten, because so many men just look at marriage these days and they're saying this is a deal that is just not worth it. And again, a lot of the men, they're not being allowed to come in and be the husband material or start to work towards the husband material, because you have all these people looking to empower the women and build them up, not understanding that it is the man who is the builder. And the whole thing is, the man, when he goes out here and he is developed right and he starts building early on, he starts laying that foundation. And when he lays that foundation, it's solid ground that everybody can stand on. But you have most people, they want to believe in this feminism where they think that we can make the man last and everything will be okay. But we see what the state of our society is when you have no men in any place to go out here and build. Because the reason why we have marriage rates at an all-time low is because we did not do a good job of investing in our men. And because we did not invest in our men, they didn't have an incentive to go out here and invest in marriage. And they don't want to invest in marriage because they see that the deal has gotten so bad that there is absolutely nothing in it for them. I mean, why, again, ask the critical question, why should a man invest in a woman when that woman is competing against him? A marriage is supposed to be a partnership and a business. And in the business of marriage, the husband and the wife are supposed to work together. And because they're supposed to work together, they're supposed to have one set of common goals, and that is building that household under the authority of the Most High Living God, teaching their children the values of the Most High Living God, and going out here and building a home where they will have assets, and assets that take care of the family. So why can a man go out here and work when he's got a woman at home working against him, and this woman is working for other people? Because when you look at most of the Western women today, they're only thinking about getting ahead with their boss, getting ahead with their friends, and their man is last in the picture, when God meant it for you to be serving the man and helping the man. Instead of her looking to help the man, she's looking to help everybody else but the man towards doing his work on earth for God, and looking to help that man towards building something for God. So they're not looking towards helping the man, and that's not how you can't really build anything when you have a wife who's working against you. So that's, again, more reasons why men don't want to get married, because they just can't find a woman who will be a partner in the relationship. Now, when I was reading this article, they wanted to make it look like it was all about women having choices, but the whole problem is they don't understand is the man has the ultimate choice. Because while, like I wrote in Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, most women, yes, they can choose the man they want to date. However, it is the man who chooses to propose marriage to the woman. So this is the thing that most of the feminists don't really get. What's going on, Rob IS? I'm glad to see you here. They don't understand is the man has to see a value in the woman in order to think about marrying the woman. So most women are thinking it's all about her having the man, and she's only thinking about having him as a man because she's bought into a lot of twisted ideas, like the whole concept of a man and not a husband. But she doesn't understand the ultimate goal for a woman in courtship and dating is to get that wedding proposal, because the wedding proposal from the man signifies that that man sees her as having the highest value out of all women and is looking to make you his helpmeet and support and looking to be the woman he's going to work with towards building his home and looking towards building his family with. So most women, they're just thinking, I want to get this wedding ring as part of some sort of ceremony, and that the ceremony is just a formality, not understanding what that ring means to that man. And that ring isn't a physical ring like Madison Avenue and Hollywood want to tell you. It's a spiritual ring where you're going to make this vow before the Most High, where you say you want to take this woman on as your wife. You want to make her your partner in working towards building something, and you want to be with this woman and work with this woman towards building your household and your family. So this is something the woman doesn't really understand about marriage. She just thinks about it from the legalistic view that the world teaches her, that marriage is some sort of contract or some sort of license, and that she can go out and break this contract. And all she's thinking about is a way to break the contract, not understanding that there's a whole spiritual contract with the Most High that is also there too. Because again, when you make that vow to be that man's husband, you are making a vow before God to commit to that man. And most women, they don't want to commit to that man because, again, they are serving mammon, and they really are more committed to the mammon than the man, and they're more committed to getting mammon instead of trying to be that servant that God wanted them to be, that helpmeet and support to that man. So all they're thinking about is getting this payday they were told about by Madison Avenue in Hollywood, and they're thinking about getting with this so-called rich man, this construct created by Madison Avenue and Hollywood. But the big problem is that there aren't that many of those guys out there. And a lot of times the guys who they could have been with, they can't get with them because they are so busy on the job thinking about how much money they're making and how they want to get with the big guys. They don't understand that the husband you get from who starts out small, he may grow up and become big over time, and they miss out on those guys because they're so busy looking to go and chase the big money guys, and they wind up with nothing at the end of the day, because usually what happens with these so-called big money guys is the big money guys can go out here and they can marry younger, and they usually don't choose most of those women who are out here on this whole career path. They have no interest in those kinds of women to be their wives, and they don't have an interest in making those women their wives because they see those women as competition. And a man is not looking for, again, for a competitor when he's looking for a wife. He's looking for a partner who will work with him and a woman who will follow his lead and support him in working towards building the household and building wealth in the household. And then a competitor is not looking to help you build your wealth in your household or teach values to your children. A competitor is looking to take from your household, and a competitor is looking to take from your children. And when it comes down to a competing woman, she is only interested in what she can get, and she's looking for ways to get ahead at your expense. So most guys out here, they look at today's Western woman, and they don't see an ally, they see an adversary, and they see an adversary because of all of the things that they have been taught and miseducated to believe, that they can be independent, they can do it on their own, they don't need a man. And again, when you read your Bible speaks completely diametrically opposed to every one of those statements that your feminist makes. And again, God was the one who created marriage in the first place. So he knows how it's supposed to work, but it can't work because we have these man-made constructs and this man-made Western system. and that this man-made Western system has really made it very hard for men and women to come together the way God wants men and women to come together. Because whenever you have a system that teaches men and women to compete against each other, then it's hard for them to come together the way God wants them to. Because a lot of kids over the last 50 years, they've been brainwashed from birth to buy into these concepts, and they're still trying to make these concepts work. But these concepts will never work. These constructs will never work. And the more you try to make them work, it's like taking a square peg and putting it into a round hole. And sadly, an entire, I think, 2 to 3 generations of women have been trying to fit that square peg into that round hole. And because they're trying to fit that square peg in the round hole, this is why so many of them are winding up so miserable these days and so bitter and so depressed. It's because they are still trying to fit this feminist square peg into the round hole of God's natural order. And it's never going to work because, again, a competitor cannot work with a man. And again, God did not make the woman to be this head of household. The feminist wants her to be, because the feminist is primarily wants that because she's insecure, because she doesn't know how to get her needs met by a man. She doesn't know how to have a relationship with a man. And she is insecure. So she teaches these ideologies and makes women believe, oh, you don't need a man. Well, the reason why you don't have a man is because you're buying into satanic constructs and believing that you're going to go out here and be this independent woman. Again, God made the woman to serve the man and made her for the man. But the feminist wants to believe she's made to be on her own, which is a complete lie. But this is what she believes. And she wants to go out here and think that she can, again, be a competitor in a partnership. Again, another concept, when you really take it apart, you start seeing the contradictions in it, because how can you be a partner and compete against your partner? So that's another, again, reason why men just don't want to get married these days is, again, they just don't see anything in it for them. They don't see anything of value in it for them. I mean, a man wants to, again, read so many things about men who wanted to get married and they wanted to go out here and they wanted to start building, but it's just not worth it anymore because they would just wind up losing everything they worked for. I mean, why should a man go out here and ask a woman to marry him and start working towards building that household if she's going to tear everything down? And why should a man go out here and try to work towards having a wedding with this woman when in 3 to 5 years she's going to say she's not happy because he's not meeting some Madison Avenue or Hollywood criteria for success, because she's buying into ideas from romance novels that tell her that your husband needs to be making such and such amount of money. He needs to be buying you such and such items. And he's just out here trying to lay that foundation for building a household. He may be even just trying to save up enough money for the down payment on a first home, or trying to work towards getting a better job. And here you have, this woman buying into these Madison Avenue constructs, talking about how he needs to go out here and be making $100,000 a year. He needs to be driving a Lexus, and he needs to be wearing Armani suits, and allowing her to go out here and be able to eat at fine restaurants practically every night. I mean, how can a man start working towards working on a savings for a down payment when you have women buying into ideas from Madison Avenue in Hollywood that have her focused on consumption instead of working on helping him build something to produce a strong household? Because what most men want to do in their early years is they want to go out here, they want to start saving their money, they want to be able to get that down payment on a home, they want to start working on developing their skills, and they also want to start working on going out here and building a business. And it's hard to do that when you have a woman who is out here looking to compete against you. and looking to go out here and looking to give your enemies more of your secrets and looking to undermine you. So again, when most American men and Western men look at today's American woman and Western woman, they don't see somebody who is going to be an asset to them. They don't see somebody who is going to be that help meet and support. They don't even see somebody who's going to give them not financial support, but they also don't see anybody who's going to give them any emotional support, because that's something a lot of men really want from women, is that emotional support, because they want to be able to go home and at least know that there's somebody in their corner, somebody who is there for them, somebody who wants to work with them, and somebody who wants to be close to them. And they can't have that these days, because in today's society, he's got this woman who's competing against him, and she's looking not to give him emotional support, but she's not looking to give him emotional support. She's just looking for him to just be there, to be like an ATM card, or to be like a bank check. So he's looking at it and saying, I'm in the relationship and I'm supposed to be the leader in the relationship, but I have no real support. It's just like I'm in the house by myself and this person is living here with me, but this person isn't giving me any sort of emotional support whatsoever. So when the man comes in and he's having a hard day from work, he has no comfort, because when he's got a woman competing against him, she's not looking to support him. She's just looking for him to just be there to support her. And he's not getting anything out of it. He's just being told, you just have to suck it up and just go out there. And a lot of guys, they're like, look, I want to be able to at least come home and have a place where I can just rest and have some peace. And he's coming home and he has no peace whatsoever. And that's another reason why a lot of guys are just saying it's just not worth it to get married, because why go home to somebody who's going to argue with you? And why want to bring somebody into your home who's going to argue with you when you've already had to deal with arguing with people all day long? You've had to deal with drama all day long and headaches all day long. And now you have to come home to a woman who wants to argue with you. So guys see a lot of the nightmares going on as related to things, and that's some of the reasons why they don't want to get married anymore. And again, marriage, it starts with the man. And what I'm seeing a lot of is that we really didn't invest a lot in our men so that they would have a reason to get married. And I talked about that in depth in the later chapters of the Man Crisis, because in the later chapters of the Man Crisis, I talk about, the issues as related to marriage and the Man Crisis. And again, we didn't take the time to invest in our men so that they could understand why they should get married. And why should those men get married when you have a system that practically penalizes them every time they want to go out here and do something constructive as related towards building a family or building a home? Why should a man go out here and invest his time Yeah, that's the answer is real. Yeah, nobody wants to come home to a combat zone, and that's a lot of men. They just don't want to bother with it. John Faulkner, that's a great question. What do I think about women asking men for marriage? It's not going to work, because marriage was created by God, and God created marriage for the man, and He created it for the man to be his leader and his steward. And no man wants to be put in a submissive position under a woman. It's like what I said in why 70% of Black women are single. When you have a man who is in a submissive position, he is naturally going to resist that, because it's just not the place God meant for the man to be. So when a woman asks a man for a marriage, that's basically saying that the man is weak, and the man is not going to respect that, because that man is going to want to be in that leadership position. Again, the woman may choose the man, but it is the man who chooses who will be his wife. And the man chooses who will be his wife based on the values and character the woman has, and how she will help him build his household. And if you don't want to work with the man towards building, then the man is not going to want to make you a wife. And this is another thing that most women don't understand. They're thinking that because they have their college degrees, their educations, they're thinking that this marriage is like a job, and a marriage is not like that at all. Like, marriage is a whole different set of standards, and most women are trying to go at it like they would at one of these corporate 9-to-5 jobs, and they think because they can go out here and sell themselves to a man on a job, they can use that same approach to go out here and sell themselves as a wife. But what a man wants for a wife is a completely different set of standards than what he would want for a person working in a corporate office. When a man is looking for a wife, he is looking for someone, again, who is going to look to help him be able to go out here and be able to run his household. He is looking for somebody who is going to support him physically, somebody who's going to support him emotionally. Glad to see you here, Steve Wallamak. Glad to see you here. But he's looking for someone who wants to follow his lead, and he's looking for someone who is going to help him lay that foundation towards building what he's working on. In addition to his career, he's also looking for a woman who is going to look to help him lay that foundation for his household. He's looking for a woman with good values that can teach and prepare his children. He's looking for a woman who has a good moral center that will be a great model for his children. He's looking for a woman who will work with him towards raising his children. And he's looking for a woman who will be a partner, who will know that they have to work together, and looking for somebody who goes out here and wants to be that partner. But in today's society, again, most women, they don't want to be the partner. They don't want to be a helper. They want to be the leader. And there can only be one leader. And again, God established the man to be the leader. God established the man to be the head. God established the man to be the steward. And he made the man responsible for the earth. He made the man responsible for doing work on earth. And it's hard for that man to go out here and do that work when, again, his woman has been corrupted by these worldly standards and these satanic standards, which tell her that she can go out here and be in his leadership role. And again, you can't have two leaders, just like you can't have two masters, because it's the same thing. If you really think about it, when you have a woman going out here and trying to lead, it's the same thing as the man serving two masters. They're either going to love one and hate the other. So when you have the woman out here and she's trying to compete against you, she's serving another master, and you're trying to serve the Most High living God, and your house is divided. So when your house is divided, it can't stand. And most men, when they look at the houses and they're seeing that they're all getting divided and they're all falling down, because whenever you have the woman wanting to go her own way with these divorces, and then you have the man going another way, and then you see divorce leading to the house being separated, the children being separated, what happens is you start to see the house not standing. And this is what leads to these homes falling completely apart, is you don't have the families being together because everybody's going in two different directions. You have the woman going on the direction of mammon. You have the man who starts to become spiritually lost. And what happens is you don't have that order, you don't have that structure, because everybody is serving two different masters, and no one is under the order of the living God the way he wanted it to be for marriage. Because when it came down to marriage, again, it's a God-centered institution, but because we have these Western rules and these Western laws, they have completely undermined the institution of marriage, and they've made it, sadly, to the point where most men, they don't even want to get married anymore, and they have no incentive to go out here and even think about proposing marriage, because the women have not been taught how to be wives. And that's one thing else I talked about in why 70% of Black women are single is these days we are not teaching women to be wives. And the ironic part is most of these women are sitting here talking about how they want to get married and how they want to find this man, but they're going by these Madison Avenue and Hollywood ideas, not understanding that you have to start working towards becoming a wife at a very early age. I mean, when you start out very young, you have to start out focusing on what do you want, what type of wife you want to be. But instead, we tell women to go out here and look for careers, but the first career she needs to really think about is being a wife and a mother. Because if you're not thinking about what type of wife and mother you're going to be, what's going to happen is you're going to be like the women of the last couple of generations, winding up spiritually lost because all they're thinking about is getting this good job, making all of this money, but they're not thinking about what type of servant they're going to be to a husband and what type of values are they going to teach to their children, because these are the things that men are looking for when they're looking for a wife. Is they're looking to see, again, what type of wife can I find? What type of woman is going to support me? And what type of values is she going to have that she's going to teach my children? Because to me, that's very, very important, because what the woman, because again, if we go back to the old African proverb, which says a race can rise no higher than the moral position of its women, and as the woman goes, so goes the race. Those values are very important out here, because if this woman's values are messed up, she's going to mess up your children, because she is the first teacher of your children. And if the mother of your children is one of these women who's just thinking about serving mammon, then she's going to have your children focused on mammon. Thank you, Errol1, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And I do agree with you. Yeah, some of these Black women do not have respect for Black manhood, but a lot of people have not been taught to value Black manhood. And that's one of the sad things out here, because when you have good values, you understand that if you don't value Black manhood, then your son is not going to learn how to value Black manhood. That's, again, why values are so important, because this is something that when you start thinking about your foundation for what type of wife you want to have, you have to think about the values this woman has. Because if her values are messed up, if her values are really poor, what's going to happen is she's going to start teaching your kids these values. And instead of your children becoming men and boys and girls who learn the value of Black manhood, Black womanhood, self-love, they're going to learn all of these dysfunctional traits that the feminists teach them about being an independent woman, not needing a man, or turning out to become one of these soft beta males. And those aren't the values you really want your children learning at an early age. And again, that's why a lot of guys, when they look at the women these days, they don't see wife material, because we did not prepare women the same way we did not prepare men. Sultan W, thank you for the super chat. He says he read 2 of my ebooks, Stop Simping and Why 70% of Women Are Single. They were phenomenal, well written, and a lot of information. I'd love to do a part 2, but I'm kind of I just need the time to do it, because right now I'm in the middle of the SJS Direct 2021 catalog. I'm pondering maybe one of these days doing another nonfiction book, but the most recent one I've done is The Man Crisis. But I'm pondering doing another one. I just haven't had the time to do another one. But when I look at, again, these marriage at an all-time low, again, we didn't prepare our men. And because we didn't prepare our men, they have no reason to go out here and get married. We're not thinking about creating husbands and fathers. We're just thinking about just creating this gynocentric society, about creating these empowered women. And that's a big problem these days. That's another big problem that why men aren't going out here and thinking about marriage, is because in our gynocentric society, like I talk about in The Man Crisis, we spent so much time investing in these women and making these empowered women that we didn't think about going out here and investing in men to create the so-called good men that the women say are all gone, or create the husbands that would go out here and be those kinds of men. So we want to sit there and complain that, oh, there's no men to marry these women, but you didn't teach these men, you didn't prepare these men, you thought that these careers were more important than the family. And because America and the West thought that careers were more important than family, this is why we're having problems right now. And this is why our society is struggling right now. This is one of the reasons why our birth rates are at an all-time low, because again, when you don't invest in your men, what happens is they don't have the resources to go out here and build. And this is a big problem that many in the West aren't really thinking about, is they're thinking that, oh, we can just invest in the women and everything will be okay. But if you don't invest in the men don't go out here and build. The men don't go out here and build and go out here and have the foundation to go out here and start their careers. They don't have that. If they don't have that foundation to start their careers, they don't have that foundation to start a savings. And then they don't have the foundation to go out here and work towards looking to get married. So a lot of people are thinking that it all starts with empowering the woman, but it really starts with empowering the man. If the man does not have that foundation early on and is not taught his role early on, then he really does not have any understanding of why he even needs to get married. Because back in the day, men understood why they needed to get married, and they understood they needed to get married again because the household was how they built wealth. And they built that wealth by going out here, by having that wife and that family, and they go out here and they build towards that. That is the goal that they have, but we took that goal away from them, and then we didn't even teach them about their roles. And that's another thing that's a big problem, again, for why so many men just aren't considering marriage, because they haven't been taught and prepared in their godly roles as men. They have not been taught how to be stewards. They have not been taught to be heads of household. They have not been taught to be heads, and they have not been taught that there's importance in their roles, and it's also an importance in being a husband. They haven't even been taught a value in being a husband, because in over 50 years of feminism in these single mother households, most of these women have taught the boys how to be a man or a boyfriend and not how to be a husband, because a husband is a God-given role for a man to graduate into, and it has responsibilities, whereas a boyfriend doesn't have any responsibilities. It is a man-made social role, and as a man-made social role, it allows an out for a man to escape out of if he wants to abdicate those responsibilities. So when you have 2 to 3 generations of boys out here who have been taught how to be boyfriends and men, they don't learn their roles on how to be husbands or how to work towards graduating towards becoming a husband. It's just like in Dondra T. Whitfield's Male versus Man, where he talks about a boy matriculating into manhood. Well, part of matriculating into manhood is understanding your roles as a man and understanding the duties that you have to take on when you become a man. And this is something a lot of the males out here, they're not getting these days, because again, for the last 3 generations, we've taught boys, they don't, in these single mother households, they can be boyfriends, they can be men. They don't have to be a husband. So the whole thing is, if you don't teach a boy and he doesn't see that modeled for him, then he doesn't see that as a role he needs to graduate into. So that's another big problem to why marriage rates are an all-time low. These boys have not been trained to understand that a husband is an important person. A husband is an important part of society. A husband is somebody that is very important to God's natural order. And a husband is somebody who is extremely valuable. In the last 50 years, we have demonized husbands. We have mocked husbands. We have said that men have no value. We have said that men who are in the home, who are running the home, are losers. And when we did that, what we did was we wound up hurting ourselves, because we had this generation of women who were from that, I call it was the baby boomer generation, they had the bad marriages, and they put a bad stink on marriage and demonized it. And then they gave us pictures of things like bumbling, stumbling dads and incompetent fathers. And that really didn't help the picture of what it meant to be a husband or show people the importance or the value of a husband. But a husband has a great value to the Most High living God. A husband is someone who, again, is a steward, a head of household, and is somebody who is responsible and accountable to the living God, and somebody that is an essential role in God's natural order. What do I expect after the pandemic, Rowdy? I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a complete mess out here as related to dating and relationships. It's going to be a complete mess because we still have this man crisis going on, and with the family out of order, everything is out of order. So I think it's just going to be a mess. I mean, a lot of women and the feminists are being quiet these days, but I see it as being a complete mess. Young Link Jr., thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Been following you for over a year. Been preparing myself spiritually, marrying my fiance next year. Congratulations. I'm glad. I hope it works out for you. But marriage is very important. I mean, but you don't have to get married by the system. The whole thing is you come together and you build your family and you build your home. But the whole thing is these days, people want to do that. A lot of young people, they want to do that. They want to build families. They want to build homes. They want to do these things, but they find themselves undermined by a government which is supposed to be about helping the people, but has become more about helping themselves. And because our government is about so-called empowering women, the great irony is they can't see how they're undermining themselves, because every family you tear apart tears America further apart. And if you don't have strong families, you don't have a strong country. This is something that most in the government don't understand, because all they want to do is empower the woman by saying, oh, if we give her a job, we'll be able to make money off of her because she's going to be this consumer. But what they can't see is you wind up producing people who just can't be productive, because with each generation of children that grow up in these broken homes, you wind up creating another generation of these beta males, or you wind up creating a generation of these lost females who are out here looking for love, but don't really find any love at all because they didn't get the love from the first man in their life, which was their father. So a lot of these people, they're thinking that, oh, we empowered one generation of women, but the whole thing is you tore down your entire society to elevate those women, and you spent almost $1,000 per person to elevate those women, and you're getting nothing in return. And had you invested in those men and helped those men build strong families, you'd have a stronger country, you'd have a more competitive country, and you'd have a country that would be far more in a better competitive place than it is right now. Because when you have, your house is divided, it can't stand. And when you look at the West, the reason why we're teetering is because we didn't focus on investing in our men so that they could lay that foundation, and they could start laying the foundation towards becoming husbands and fathers, because we don't have that many husbands and fathers anymore. And that's why we don't have marriage as something that men consider as something significant. Men don't really consider marriage anymore because it's been literally been taken off the table for them by these feminists, and it's been taken off the table by a generation of dysfunctional males who grew up learning how to be whoremongers and not husbands and fathers, because there was no man in the household to teach him the true role of being a man that God created for him. There was no man there to teach him these roles and how to matriculate into these roles. None of these men were taught this. And because they grew up like stalks, like these children of the corn I talk about, a lot of these men, what happens is they grow up to become these males. And these males, what happens is they go around looking for women to sleep with, but not looking for women to build with. And the same thing with the women. They're not looking for, all right, John Faulkner, my Cash App is, I'm going to leave my Cash App right here. So if you want to donate to the Cash App, guys, you can donate to the Cash App right there. So that's the Cash App. But the whole thing is these guys are not taught how to be husbands. And to most of the women out here who are so-called single, successful, well-educated, have these good jobs, they don't understand that if you're not looking to be a wife, then you're never going to find a husband, because you're looking for this quote-unquote good man created by the Madison Avenue and Hollywood construct, but that man will never exist, because that's not what God created a man to be. So they're sitting there looking for this Madison Avenue Hollywood construct of this single, successful, well-educated guy who has everything and will just say yes to everything that they want. But that man just does not exist. So they're looking for something that's just not real. And the men are just saying, look, there's just nothing in it for me to get married, because I want to go out here and build. But when I try to go build, there's women who start out, when I'm looking for a job, I can't get the job. And if I can't get the job, I can't start building my savings, and I can't start building towards working towards my goals. And if I can't start working towards my goals, then I cannot be somebody who can go out here and get that success. And if you can't get that success, then what is going to happen is that guy is not going to be somebody who could be a husband. And again, it's all because we want to empower the woman, not understanding that the woman needs the man, and we need to start investing in the man and start working towards building and developing the man. Because if we invest in building and developing the man, then you will start to see all of this start to work. Because again, marriage is like the fourth or fifth goal on a man's road. And if a man can't get the job, then how can he work towards marriage? Another critical question the feminists I don't think they can answer is, how can this man work towards being a husband if you've got the woman in his job and the woman is working in his job? How can he go out here and work towards building and working towards getting that wedding ring for her? He has no reason to go out here and think about proposing marriage if the woman is working on the job and competing against him. How can he working towards marrying her? Because she's already there. She's there. She's in his way, and she's preventing him from being able to go out here and be this husband, because she's in the driver's seat. Rowdy Benoit, do I think AI and automation will replace non-essential jobs after pandemic? I think AI and automation is going to blow up in people's faces, because the critical question with AI and automation is this. If you have AI and automation doing the jobs, then who's going to buy the product? And they want to go this route. These elites want to go on that route, but when they see themselves losing money, they'll realize that AI and automation isn't what it's all cracked up to be, and that you need to have people working in jobs if you hope to make profit. And the whole thing is, the more you invest in people, the more profits you get. And when you invest in people, people see value in other people. When you have AI and automation, people don't see a value in a company. They become cold to it. They become indifferent to it. And then they don't care about it. And the worst thing that you would want in business is for somebody to not care about your product. And that's something that may lead to the fall of AI. And a lot of these elites, they don't really understand, the whole thing about AI and automation and how it just undermines everything for them. They're just so busy, again, caught up in trying to be cheap and trying to save a dollar. They can't see how much they cost themselves, the same way a lot of these people don't see how, when you don't teach a boy the value of being a husband and a steward is important in his early age. When you invest that education in him early on, then he sees a value in it later on, and he goes out here and it looks to be a husband and not a boyfriend or a man. Yeah, Mr. J, you make a good point. Yeah, marriage in the USA is a bad proposition for all men. Yeah, but black men have it even worse, because the family courts and stuff are very biased towards black men, against black men. They're very biased against black men. and they always want to try to take a swipe at the black man in the family courts and the criminal courts and the divorce courts, because they don't want black men to have economic power. So when they see a black man who has a family, they really want to go out of their way to undermine him, because they want to take his wealth away, they want to take his legacy away, and they want to destroy his legacy. And that's one of the things that leads to so many black men not wanting to get married and have families, is that they fear that if they go out here and try to build a family, what will happen is the courts, because some of them are, because they're racist, they will go out of their way to try to take everything he has and give it to the woman, and then smile while he loses everything, because they don't want him to have his legacy. They don't want him to have things that he passes on to the next generation. And they don't want him to be that role model or that example of black manhood. So they want to tear that black man down and make it where you don't see him as a responsible father. You don't see him as a responsible husband. You don't see him as a responsible steward. And you see him as this stereotype that they want to create about this lazy, no good black man. When in a lot of cases, a lot of these men want to be husbands again. They want to be fathers. They want to go out here and take that responsibility. But because the woman wants to compete against him, she wants to go and get this better on the other side, not understanding that there is no better on the other side. And that's something that's really, most women aren't really thinking about until they have been out of a marriage and they're stuck in this vicious cycle where they're just going from man to man. They don't sit down and think, critically and say, hey, I had a good husband. He took care of me. He was looking to work with me. And I had a good thing going, but instead I didn't appreciate it because I just keep looking at what Madison Avenue and Hollywood keep telling me is supposed to be the ideal. But that's a fantasy created by the entertainment industry, to make you believe that this is supposed to be what you're supposed to get. But when the whole thing is, God has given you what you're supposed to have right now, and God is giving you something that is special right now. I mean, when you have a good man that is looking to look out for you and protect you and stand up for you, that's something very special. And a lot of women don't appreciate that until it's gone. And some of them, they don't want to believe in it until they've gone through 2 or 3 different guys and then find out there's nothing out there. I mean, some women, they don't understand that you only get maybe 1 or 2 good chances at a man, and maybe 1 good chance with a marriage, and they miss out on that opportunity because they're so busy chasing a dream that they wind up missing everything. Luciano asks his last question: do I think materialism is triumphing spiritualism in marriage? And yeah, I think that a lot of people are caught up in this mammon, and that because they're looking for material things, they're missing out on the spiritual aspects of relationships. And this is what prevents them from getting close to people, because they're looking to get this bag from these guys, and they wind up missing out on having a relationship with that man. So a lot of women out there, they're not looking at the man as somebody who will be there for them emotionally. They're looking at him as a payday. They're looking at him as a cash grab. And that's all been brainwashed to them by this media out here that's taught them, you need a man with money. And that's what I grew up learning in the 80s. So that's what I used to hear all the time. You need this guy with this money. You need to get this money. You need to get this guy with this cars, with these clothes. And again, not thinking about what type of man you're getting with. You're not thinking about what type of leader is he going to be, what type of authority figure is he going to be, what type of man is he going to be. You're not thinking about his values. All you're thinking about is how much money he's got. But a lot of guys, they'll have money, like the dope dealers in the 80s. They had the money, but their values were messed up. And because their values were messed up, this is what led to a lot of women winding up being messed up, and they wound up becoming these baby mamas because they got with these messed up guys, and then they weren't focused on marriage and family. They were focused on getting a man who had the money. But a man with money is not looking to become a husband, and he's not looking to become somebody who wants to build in the long term. Because when it comes down to the dope boy, he's only focused on the short term, and he's focused on what he can get now but he's not focused on building towards a later. And a man is usually focused on working on building for the later, and he's looking for a partner who's going to work with him towards building to the later. And the later is the thing that a lot of today's American women aren't really patient for. They want to get the success now, and they want to get that success now. They want to get that big money now. They want to get, but the whole thing is, you miss out on the more important parts of the later, which is, again, building that relationship with that man, teaching those values to your children, and coming together as a man and woman and children under God. I plan on doing a video on Katie Couric and Denzel Washington later next week, D. Woodward. I just haven't done it yet because I'm still trying to get over this cold that I have, but I wanted to get through this because this stream was really important to me, because I felt that I couldn't just do a video on why marriage rates are at an all-time low, because there's so much that goes into it. And a lot of people, they really don't understand what marriage is all about. They don't really understand what marriage is supposed to be about, because Madison Avenue and Hollywood have really distorted what marriage is all about. And over the last 50 years, as we have had the family courts practically, destroy men in society, we have seen the whole institution of marriage practically torn completely apart. And because we've had the whole institution of marriage torn completely apart, most men, they don't know what marriage is. And those who want to, who even think about it, they get discouraged because they hear about the horror stories about the 80% of women filing these divorces for arbitrary reasons, not things like what the Most High said, like the only reason for a divorce is fornication. That's the only thing that he considers a justification for divorce. But we have people out here that just have these hard hearts. And because they have these hard hearts, they want to divorce a husband just because they are tired of him, or they just want to, they see another guy down the block who makes more money. And because they see a guy making more money, they want to monkey branch over to that guy. And they think they're going to have a happy relationship with him. But they don't understand is you have spiritual bonds with this man. And when you sever those spiritual bonds with that man to get with this other man, you wind up creating mental problems for yourself. And this is why you're not happy, and you wind up perpetually miserable. Because so many of these women, what they do is they go from man to man looking for this spiritual peace, but they can't find that spiritual peace because, again, the two, when they lie together, they become one. And when you have the DNA of these different men in you, what it does is it creates all of this conflict because you have these different spirits inside of you. And these spirits are fighting, and that's what leads to the woman becoming more and more distressed. Rowdy, he says, with Mrs. Curry, Mrs. Parker, public disrespect of their husband, black men have no incentive to try and please and marry black women. Who's going to pay for the spinster epidemic? Well, the U.S. government's going to pay for it because they're the ones who want to be the ones to take care of all of these women. But what's going to happen is the United States government's going to wind up overwhelmed because you're going to have to deal with all of these older women who have practically squandered away the resources that they had because they wanted everything now. They divorced their husbands. They disrespected their husbands. And these women, they're looking for the government to be the final guy to pay for them. But the government doesn't understand is you don't have enough people to pay for that because you didn't invest in your men. And if you don't invest in your men, you have no men to pay taxes into the system. So all these women are going to wind up in a welfare system that is eventually going to crash under its own weight. So they're sitting there thinking that, because the whole thing is we enable all this dysfunction by telling the woman that there's always the law will be there, the government will be there. But what happens is there's not going to be anybody there for all of these older women because once they have alienated all of the men who would have taken care of them in their old age, they have nobody there for them. It's just like I said in a Patreon exclusive video, what's going to happen when Pookie gets old? I mean, who's going to be there for most of these women? A lot of these women who got the Pookies and the Ray Rays, they find out they have no savings, no retirement. Again, these are all things that men, when they go out here and build, they build these whole units to take care of not only themselves, but to take care of their wives and their children in their old age and have something to pass on to the next generation. So when your men were not taken care of, they can't take care of the women. And when you empower the women, they don't build anything that allows the women to be taken care of in their old age, because it's the men who go out here and they build again so that they can have something to take care of themselves and their wives in their old age, and then something left so the next generation can have some inheritance to build further on. But we instead have not been focusing on building families and legacies. And because we're not focused on building families and legacies, what's happening is you have all of these you have what's going to be a major economic crisis coming soon, because a lot of these empowered women, they aren't focused on wealth building. They're thinking that somebody else is going to come in and take responsibility for them, but nobody's going to take responsibility for an older woman who has already been married and divorced 3 or 4 times, has multiple children. Men don't want to invest in that. Men want to invest in the beginning in building a marriage. Men want to invest in building a family with their wife. And men want to go out here and build that one home for themselves. And most women don't see that you only get maybe one shot in life at building that marriage, building that home, and building that family, and that they blew their chances buying into the white feminist idea that that men are disposable, there will be another man right around the corner, and that there are numerous opportunities at men when there aren't that many opportunities out there, and they oftentimes miss out on those opportunities to get with that great guy and start building that family. So that's something most women aren't really thinking about, because they've bought into the feminist idea that there will always be some guy out there, some rich guy will come and sweep them off their feet. But as a woman gets older, and once she gets past 25, those prospects start to get dim, because again, as those men start getting older and they start seeing younger women, they start thinking about those younger women and not the women of their generation. So that's something women aren't really thinking about. And they're not really thinking about, their prospects for marriage, because they think they've got all the time in the world, when the window for marriage is very small. And if you don't jump on that opportunity, you can miss it like that. And the whole thing is, a lot of men understand that, and that's why they want to get started at an early age. I mean, that was something I wanted to do when I was in my 20s, but I just could not find that full-time job. I mean, I wanted to start building at an early age, and I really wanted to work towards, those long-term goals of building my own place, getting my own money, working towards a down payment on a home, because that's a road a guy has to start early on before he starts thinking about bringing a wife in. He has to start laying that foundation at an early age and say, look, I need to have my job right. I need to have my money right. I need to have a place, and I need to have stuff together. And once I get stuff together, then I can start talking about bringing in a wife to help me start building on later goals. And again, that this is something that has been impeded by our 50 years of feminism and this quest to empower women and give them all of these economic resources. And then they don't know how to build anything. All they know how to do is consume. And then once they have consumed everything that they've had, they want to go out here and try to find some other guy to continue consuming what he has, and not think about going out here and building anything of value. So most women, they're just, Marcellus Prime, I do believe a lot of them regret turning down the good guys, especially when they get older. They regret turning those guys down, because they know that their prospects of getting married, once you start to get in the late 20s, early 30s, it really starts to pass you by, especially when you've had illegitimate children by other men, venereal diseases, and when you've had mental health issues from numerous sexual partners or sexual encounters. So a lot of people, those prospects start to go down. And what they don't understand is, again, the prospects for marriage when you're young, people take them for granted, but when you get older, they really start to disappear. And a lot of women, they don't understand that when a guy comes along, you need to really appreciate the opportunity that you get, because you may not get another opportunity, because there is no, but the big problem is that most women think they can always do better, but there is no better at a certain point. At a certain point, there is no better after that. And once you get past that certain point, you wind up like Halle Berry, where there's nothing, because all the pool, as I said before in a previous video, the pool of simps, it's big when a woman is young, but when a woman gets older, what happens is that pool of men who would have been interested in her starts to dry up, because these men, what happens is these men find other partners and marry them, or they wind up getting into relationships with, or they wind up dying, or they just wind up leaving the table. So that pool shrinks up, and by the time that woman hits 25, that pool goes from 15 guys chasing her down to about 8. And when she gets about 30, 35, it's about 3. And when she's 40, it's about 0. So all the guys have already been picked off or picked up and taken. And she's sitting there waiting for this Mr. Right, this Madison Avenue construct, this Denzel Washington muscle man who has the good job and the big car. And that guy, he doesn't exist. And nobody told her he's imaginary. He's not real. And the real men out here who wanted to marry her and wanted to propose to her, she said they weren't good enough. And they were good enough. They met God's standard, but the whole thing is the woman buying into Satan's Madison Avenue and Hollywood standard is looking for this perfect man, but no man is perfect. I mean, all men are flawed, all men have sinned and come short. So this is something most of the women, they're not understanding, and they're not understanding that you get very few prospects. And again, the men don't really see a reason to go out here and get married, because they when they look at marriage and they see how our government has just literally done American husbands, American fathers, I mean, strip them of their leadership ability, strip them of their authority, find ways to undermine them at every turn, won't let them lead their families, won't let them be heads of household, won't let them teach their children, won't let them supervise in their home, won't let that man be a man. So a lot of those men are just saying, why should I go out here and get married if I cannot go out here and do my job? Because if I try to do my job, what's going to happen is the woman will go out here and call the police on me, or she'll file for divorce and then use the courts to beat me up. And guys look at that and they go, there's no reason really to go out here and marry one of these women, because if I marry this woman, I'm not going to have a helpmeet or support to work with me. I'm going to have to deal with another adversary and another enemy. And this adversary and this enemy is going to be in my own home. And she's going to tear down everything I ever worked for and take everything I ever worked for and try and squander it. And most men look at that and say, why would I want to go out here and work towards building with someone who's going to file for a divorce, get almost half of everything I worked for 10, 15, 20 years, and then look to squander it by spending it on frivolous items, or go out here and spend it on a pookie. She's going to take everything you worked for and just practically throw it in the trash. And you're supposed to want to work towards building with that person. Well, most men are looking at that and saying, no, I don't want to work with someone like that, because someone like that is not a helpmeet and a support to me. They are just an enemy. And basically, they look at that woman and they say to themselves, why would I want to get involved with an enemy when I really need an ally? And most women, they don't understand that the systems that they have been taught to buy into teaches them how to be an enemy to a man. And when you're taught to be an enemy to a man's not going to want to marry you, because you bring nothing to his table that shows him how you're going to be a partner that will help him move things forward. I'm going to get ready to wrap up tonight's stream. And I'm looking to get my first book sale for the month of May. So if you guys could head over to Amazon.com and pick up ISIS, the main event one, in the chat. So if you guys could pick up ISIS, the main event, on Amazon in paperback and Kindle format, I really would appreciate it. And if you could pick up John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, I would really appreciate it. I'll leave a link to that book in the chat as well. So I really appreciate these are the books of the SJS Direct 2020 catalog. I really want to get some sales on them. I really want to get 10 sales for each book this month. So if you guys could head over to Amazon, pick these up in paperback and Kindle format, I'd really appreciate it. And there's also a variant cover for John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. So I really want to thank everybody for coming out to the stream. I hope you can pick up some of the books afterwards. And I'm glad you guys enjoyed the stream, and I hope you'll be there for next week's stream.